about some video games, and I decided, hey, I'll film. I should really do a lot of these video game vids with this as the backdrop, but I'll just talk about video games. But the drink I'll be reviewing is Sprite Tropical Mix. I'm pretty sure I haven't done this. I know I did the cherry one. I did not see this one on my list that I looked at, my playlist for drink reviews. So let's see how it is. Not bad. I can taste the blend, but I'm getting more just a straight Sprite flavor. It's not bad though. Tropical flavor soda. I'm trying to get what they're going for here. I'm trying to think if there's like maybe a little bit of pineapple or like a mango or something in there. I'm not good at that. This is decent though. Sprites are typically, at least for me in terms of sodas, is pretty light. I feel it's like a lighter soda than most. Decently refreshing. I'm gonna go an 8 on this one. I like this. The Sprite is fine. I think I prefer like 7-Up a little more, but I kind of like this better than a regular Sprite because it has that regular Sprite taste that's pretty prominent, but it has that tropical mix in there too, which is adding a little something. It's like adding a little something to a Sprite, which is nice. I start to ramble. It's almost like a more of a video game update because obviously that's part of the reason too. I was like, I want to film with as much as I can get behind me because I wanted to, talk about some of my collecting habits that I'm going to be doing going forward. I've already been selling stuff. You can't see the Wii stuff, but I moved a couple of Switch games, I should say. Did I say Wii? Switch games recently. I sold Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. I'm just looking at a lot of games I know I'm never going to play. I got Breath of the Wild. It was a gift from my fiance back in like 2018. I played some of it. It was alright, but for me personally, the open world Zelda, like it was big open world, looked nice. For me, it's like I almost didn't want an open world Zelda. I kind of like when it's a decent little size game world, but it's still kind of more linear. I got another Switch game on there, my eBay site. I got a list of Zero Time Dilemma, a couple of the PlayStation games back there. This is the thing I've said a few times, more than a few times. I'm looking at, to finally have pretty much almost my whole collection it looks awesome, but then I'm seeing games that back in Islip on Long Island, New York. A lot of my games, I do the full collection vid, and I'd be pulling them all out. It was easier to actually do it this way with the shelf, which is nice, but a lot of my games would be in like a big drawer that they were in, and they weren't all displayed. None were actually displayed. So you didn't see them as much. Now that I see them all the time, I'm like, I don't need this, I don't need that, whatever. I'd rather this be money at this point in the bank. So I'm like, what am I doing with some of these? And one thing here, I would never, any game that has been gifted to me over the years, I would never sell a gifted game. But I have plenty of games. Sorry about that. I have plenty of games that, for like, I'm looking at the PlayStation, I'm like, there's a bunch of those PlayStation games I just don't have any use for. I'd keep the Final Fantasies. Some of the other ones, but I'd like to even cut down on the Xbox One collection, but the problem is so many of the games I have on the Xbox One don't have much value, so I'd have to be lotting them up, so I might just let that stick. But in terms of like collecting, like, and not pulling from those collections, obviously the PS5 collection is going to naturally grow. It's the latest console that I've gotten, even though it's 4 years old now, but that's going to continue to grow naturally. I'm pretty much done with the PS4. There's a couple of those I need to list, but I'm pretty much done with that. Collecting, like I said, the Xbox One outside of maybe a game or two. I mean, if I looked, I could find other games that I'd like to have, but I'm not actively looking for them. PS2, whatever, I'm probably going to sell a couple of those PS2 games as well. Some of them are just, came from garage sales. They are not in good shape. So I got to sell them for lower than normal price. Because some of those discs, especially like the NFL Streets, discs are brutal. Like, I mean, brutal. But they do work. At least for like a couple hours I put into some of these games, they do work. Of course, a scratch could come into play 8 hours into a game run. Like NES, I would pick up games for from time to time, but once again, not actively looking. Same thing with the Super Nintendo. Same thing with PS2. Wii U, obviously, I'm not getting anything for it, and I might still sell a game or two on the Wii U, but I'm not sure. I've sold a couple of Vita games. What did I sell for the Vita? Where's the Vita? I sold Danganronpa, the first one. I sold Chaos Child. And Earth Defense Force 2, Invaders from Planet Space. I think I'm pretty good on the Vita now. There might be some of them. The funny thing is with the Vita, like a lot of the games, like they were peaking. I remember because I kept track in a notebook. I always keep track of stuff in notebooks. I never put this stuff on my computer. I probably should. It's easier, but I just like doing it in a notebook. And like I would keep track. I would look like every maybe 4, 5, 6 months. And with the Vita, like they were a couple of years ago. This would have been before. So maybe this was like 21. Could even been 20. That I started doing it. They were through the roof. Almost all of them had value that I had. And still they were maintaining, and now a lot of them have dropped. Some, like the Danganronpa, those games went down on the Vita, and that was, I think, mainly because they put out that compilation where I had all 3 of them. I have it on the Switch. That's another reason why I sold it. I'm like, well, I have it on the Switch. I don't need it. I think I got that. Where did I get that from? I got that from GameFly for like $2 I did sell it for more than $20. But not much more. And typically on eBay, I usually go either at what a lot of people are selling it for. Like, I look at what it's sold for recently, and I always include shipping. But when I sell, I usually don't charge shipping, although I might have to because the shipping prices just keep going up. I might have to charge $1 to ship, but I'll either go below its average or just at it. I rarely, if ever, go above the average sale price. That's just me. I like things to sell quick. And I don't know, it's part of me just money. Sure, I'm losing out on money. It's not like I go drastically lower. So I usually do that. Like the Vita games, as I was just talking about, those Vita games a lot of them lost value. Not like a shit ton, but I'm telling you, Persona 4 Golden, I bought it sealed for $20 off of eBay, and this was back in maybe 2020, early 2020. No, it might have even been 19 actually that I got it. I think I was still in Massapequa when I got it, and I was like, awesome. And then all of a sudden it was selling like new. It was selling like $100 or some shit, and like 60, 70 used. And then it just dropped because that game started coming out everywhere. It was originally on the PS2, and then they made this version with some added content for the Vita, and now it's on the PS4, Xbox One. I think it's on the Switch, or all the Xboxes and PlayStations at this point. Uncharted's probably one that still has value because of Golden Abyss, because that never came out anywhere other than the Vita, surprisingly. Summon Night 6 is another one I have. This one has pretty good value, actually. I got this for $20 at GameStop. But yeah, it's like, all of a sudden they drop and you're like, oh man. I mean, I didn't have any intention of selling them when I was looking, but I like to keep track. But those games have dropped. But another game system I'm going to be collecting for, I want to start collecting more of the in-case, like complete Sega Genesis games. You can find them, even if they don't necessarily have to have the manual. I've already put a cap on it myself. I don't want to spend more than $40 for a game that's in a box, or hopefully complete. But that's just, I have a lot of memories, nostalgia with the Genesis. It's one of my really, that and the Super Nintendo might be my top two systems. It's just that's the era I love the most. I think for a lot of people, it's the era you know. It wasn't my first era of gaming. That was the NES, Atari, Commodore 64 shit. But that Super Nintendo was TurboGrafx 16 as well, even though that was like an 8-bit system, but it had like 16-bit colors or some shit. It wasn't a true 16-bit system. Still really cool. What was it? It was PC. It was called the PC Engine in Japan. And the Genesis was the Mega Drive everywhere but North America. Both great names, though. I think I might like the Mega Drive name a little better, but the Genesis is great too. But Mega Drive sounds fantastic. As does PC Engine. But I love that era game. I think the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, I love those consoles, you know. So I want to kind of go and try to pick up, like I said, cheaper boxed Genesis games. I wouldn't be against getting loose cards too, you know, especially if they're drastically cheaper. Because right now the Genesis is not. I mean, you can find extremely expensive Genesis games, but it's not like it's like the original Xbox, which is another system I want to continue to collect for, and I've talked about that in the past. There are two systems that you can get a lot of solid titles for not a lot of money. Like, you don't have to break bank to get Genesis games, and I typically don't do that. Or Even when I say 40 for a complete game, in my mind, I'm like, keep it under 30. PS2, like I said, I don't. You can go nuts on the PS2 as well. PS2 runs like $1,000 game to like $5 game, you know. NES is another system you can collect for and get a lot of good titles for fairly cheap. And the handheld, you know, the Game Boy Color Advance and original Game Boy, like I might pick up, get the same thing, like games from there from time to time, right? Like I see something, I may grab it. I was actually looking at, and if any of you watching have a subscription to this, let me know. I know there's more than one. I've been watching a lot of unboxings of these on YouTube the past few days. It was funny, I was watching a guy's video, and I'm like, this guy's gotta be from New York, somewhere on Long Island. And one time he's like, hey, this must have been a recent video, and he's like, oh, it's a pretty warm day here on Long Island. I'm like, I knew this guy from that accent. I'm like, didn't knew this. But anyway, he was doing unboxings of this Video Game Monthly, it's called, right? I've looked at it. I decided to not do it. If any of you have it, by chance, let me know. Because I've been watching ones. I've watched them from like 5 or 6 different people. It is a video game subscription service, right? You can either choose 3. I was looking at the 4-game tier, which is $40 plus I think 10 shipping, so $50. I always count the shipping money because I'm spending that money as well. It's not like, oh, that's just shipping. No, I count it as what I'm spending, like, because this is what a lot of people do with this. I've noticed with this subscription thing when they make videos on YouTube. So anybody can get 3, 4, 5, I think 10 and now 20. You choose what systems you want. So if you get 4 games, you have to choose at least 2 systems. And I was like, I would probably do Genesis, Super Nintendo, maybe the original Game Boy. Because if you do disc-based stuff, you might not get a case at all. You might have a regular jewel case. And I was like, if I want Xbox games, I'm not going to want them if they don't have at least their case. Manual or whatever. I want the case at least. I prefer to have the manual, but as long as I have the case, that's key, right? You ain't displaying it without a case. And, but people will get them, and sometimes you get a 1-up card, and they'll give you an extra game in the box. But yeah, you have to choose what systems you want, and then you go to like a database they have, and you check off the games you already have, so they do not send them to you. And as you would get new games, you check those off as well. So if I did it, I would check off a bunch of Genesis games, Super Nintendo games that I have. I would go on the list, check them off so I don't get them. But I'm watching people's videos. I'm watching a few. Somebody, like the guy from New York, he got Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone on the Cube, which has like $60 worth of value. Didn't have the manual. I think he later got the manual. I was like, that's cool. And I think he was doing 3 games a month. That's the lowest one. Another guy seemed to get good stuff. He had like, I think his list was like Super Nintendo. I think he did 5 games, Super Nintendo, Game Gear, Genesis, Master System, Sega Master System, or maybe the original NES, something else, I don't know. GameCube, maybe. And he was getting good stuff. Then I watched another guy's, and he had 360 and something else. But he got a 10-game box, I think. And he was just getting 360 games that were like, we're talking the most mediocre stuff. Not that they're bad games. It's like Borderlands 2, Bioshock. Once again, good games, but not valuable games. So like I was saying, this is what a lot of people do on there with this. They get the box and they tally up. So, and they're not, some of them count the shipping, some don't. I would count the shipping personally because I'm using that money towards it. I would just add it towards the total of the game, right? And this guy got like a 10 game box. I should look. My phone's over there. But a 10 game box I think is like $85. So it'd be $95. I don't think they charge tax. So it'd be $95. I think it's $85.99. So it'd be $95.99. And understandably, sometimes these people have gone over the value. Like the guy who got the Potter, $60. Boom, done. He's already got the value on his box. I forget what else he got. And then, This other guy got a bunch of just 360 games like Defiance, Destiny, just stuff like you're just like, no. This guy's box, I think, had like not even half the value. I think he canceled his subscription. And another guy who canceled his, this was his second time doing it. The first time he did 3 games. And like, you're not going to hit it all the time. For me personally, if I were to do it, and I spent, it was 34, it'd be $44.99. No, wait, it's $40 for a game, so it'd be $49.99 with the shipping. I'd want to hit at least $35-40, right? Apparently the customer service is really good though, and they'll hook you up. Because another guy, he ended up not doing this because he ended up canceling it. And it's partially his fault, and he kind of says it. He had NES and Atari 2600 on his list. Now, a ton of Atari 2600 games have no value. But he might have gotten, was it a 20? No, maybe it was 10 again. And it was $95.99. I don't even think he was counting that. He was counting as $85.99. The games added up to like $40. And a lot of people go to video game price charting, which I've gone to myself. So you get a ballpark figure of what they've been selling for. And you gotta go by loose card, obviously. In the case of NES and Atari. So he wrote them, he's like, listen, like, you're supposed to be sending something close to value. And they're like, oh, well, we'll give you some more stuff. He's like, just cancel my shit. Which is another weird thing to me. You can only pay through PayPal. And that's part of the reason I was turned off. I was like, I don't want to, like, I can go PayPal through my bank. But I'm like, I don't want to do that. I just thought I'd throw in debit card information or some shit. Couldn't do that. Because I started up a password and a thing, and then I'm like, every time I go back, it's like, what tier do you want? I'm like, well, nothing now. And if you want to cancel it, you have to write them an email with what subscription you have and everything. I'm like, really? You can't just cancel it? You gotta write them an email? It was kind of annoying. But if anyone has it, let me know how it is. Because some people's boxes were great, and other guys were really good. Some were not as good. That guy kind of sounds like an infomercial every time he did it, which I found funny. for Video Game Monthly. And so, some people were like the one guy from New York. He was getting good stuff most of the time. He ended up getting a mega box with I think 20 games, and they sold him a bunch. He put a bunch of systems on there, and he was getting some random shit. He actually got a couple games sealed, but they were dirt cheap. He did get NHL 2K. Sealed for the Dreamcast, which did have like $18 in value. But like I said, if anyone by chance has joined that service, let me know how it went for you, because it's something I might still consider. But I would not do anything disc-based because I don't want to not get the game in at least a case. And they give you some little trinkets and shit in there. It is kind of cool if you're starting a collection. I think it's more for like straight retro. I'm talking like retro, like cartridge-based retro. But I was like, you know what? No. Because then if I start getting, then because I can go a month and not get any games, period. All of a sudden I'm getting 4 games sent to me. It's like, oh great, here's 4 games I couldn't give a fuck about. And that's the problem. Like, I'm looking at these videos, and a lot of them are getting the same games. If they're like Aladdin popped up for the Super Nintendo a couple times for people. It's not like, I was shocked by and the same guy who got the Harry Potter got a copy of Metroid Prime as well in one, which is like a $25 game, but still that's solid. But the Potter was crazy at $60 without the manual. That first Harry Potter game in the Sorcerer's Stone, I think on all the systems actually has value, much more value than the rest of them don't really have much value. But I was like, fuck, that's nice, but like, if you get subscribed to that for a year, maybe 2 months, you're gonna get hooked up with something like that. It's cool that they give you the 1-up though. So some months you get a 1-up card out of the box, and you're gonna get an extra game in there. But like I said, anybody's use that, let me know. But like for now, it's gonna be PS5. That's gonna grow naturally. I'm gonna have a couple coming for Christmas, and it's just the latest console I have. The complete Genesis stuff. And original Xbox as always. And And even the Nintendo Wii, I have some games there I have no interest in adding anything to that either. PlayStation, I was considering, and I was like, no, I don't want to. Because I was like, I literally have no nostalgia or any feelings for the original PlayStation. I didn't have one. Like I said before, I had a Nintendo 64. I would have loved to have had one back then. Now that I think about it, the type of games they had, I would have loved it. I have no experience with the PlayStation. I played some games here and there, but not a lot full. Only a few full. It's just not. And it's like, I'm not going to start now. I'm going to keep the Final Fantasy stuff for sure, Chrono Cross and some other ones, but I'm just whatever. But anyway, I think I'm going to stop that here. But 8 out of 10 on the Sprite Tropical Mix, pretty solid. And just rambling about my video game kind of